Is there anything more agonizing in professional sports than watching your star players get bullied night after night? While the solution might be sitting right under our noses, wearing the wrong jersey? Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today, we are not just talking about a rumor. We are dissecting a potential identity shift for the Montreal Canadiens. We need to have a serious, heart-to-heart conversation about the state of the franchise because the latest whispers coming out of the NHL insider circle are screaming that a massive reunion could be on the horizon. Forget the pipe dreams of landing Sidney Crosby. That ship has sailed, and frankly, it probably never really left the dock. But could the Canadiens be targeting a different penguin? Could we be looking at the return of the Quebec native, the giant himself, Anthony Mantha? Let's set the stage properly because context is everything here. For decades, the Montreal Canadiens have wrestled with a very specific, very heavy burden. The pressure to have a French-Canadian superstar who can actually carry the weight of the Bell Center on his shoulders. We have seen this movie before, haven't we? We saw the immense pressure put on Jonathan Drouin. We remember the endless, exhausting rumors about Vincent Lecavalier that haunted this city for 10 years. The fan base is desperate for a local hero, but not just a token player. We want a difference maker. And right now, the rumors suggest that Kent Hughes might finally be ready to pull the trigger on a deal that addresses two massive problems at once: the lack of local representation on the score sheet and the desperate need for size in the top six. This isn't just about nostalgia or language, folks. This is about physics. Look at the current composition of the Canadiens' top line. We love Nick Suzuki. He is the captain, the heart, and the soul. We adore Cole Caulfield and his electric goal-scoring ability. But let's be brutally honest with ourselves, they are not giants. In the modern NHL, specifically in the Atlantic Division, where you have to go to war against teams like the Florida Panthers and the Boston Bruins, being small is a liability that gets exposed in the playoffs. We have been screaming for beef on the wing for 3 seasons. We need a bodyguard who can skate, someone who creates space just by stepping onto the ice. Enter Anthony Mantha. The buzz surrounding this potential acquisition is deafening because it makes too much logical sense to ignore. But it also brings a wave of anxiety. Is this the right move? Or are we falling into the trap of prioritizing a local passport over elite talent? The emotional temperature in Montreal right now is reaching a boiling point. Half the fan base is tired of the rebuild and wants to see aggressive moves to compete now, while the other half is terrified of deviating from the long-term plan. This rumor regarding Mantha is the spark that has lit that powder keg. We are standing at a crossroads, and the decision Kent Hughes makes in the coming weeks regarding this specific player could define the physical identity of this team for the next half-decade. Are we going to be the fast, skilled, but easily pushed around team? Or are we finally going to add the heavy artillery required to survive a 7-game series? Now let's strip away the emotion and look at the cold, hard data, because the numbers in this scenario are absolutely fascinating and, quite frankly, a little surprising. We need to analyze exactly why Anthony Mantha is suddenly the belle of the ball. At 31 years old, standing 6 feet 5 inches and weighing in at 234 pounds, Mantha is a physical specimen. But historically, the knock on him was consistency. Critics in Detroit and Washington said he disappeared for long stretches. However, we have to look at the now, and right now, Mantha is experiencing a career renaissance in Pittsburgh that nobody saw coming. He is currently playing on a sweetheart deal, a contract that is arguably one of the best value-for-money situations in the league at just $2.5 million against the cap. And what is he delivering for that price tag? He has posted 29 points in 45 games. If you extrapolate that over an 82-game season, he is on pace to shatter his previous records and hit a career high of 53 points. But here is the statistic that matters most to the narrative in Quebec. Anthony Mantha is currently the highest-scoring Quebec-born player in the entire National Hockey League this season. Let that sink in. He is outproducing everyone else from the province. Felix Seguin from TVA Sports didn't just pull this out of thin air. He identified a specific tactical need. The Habs need a heavy winger to ride shotgun with Suzuki and Caulfield, and Mantha is analytically the perfect puzzle piece. But every trade has a cost, and this is where the story shifts from a simple acquisition to a potential blockbuster that could shake the foundations of the salary cap. We have to talk about the elephant in the room, PATRIK Laine. The scenario being floated by insiders isn't just buying Mantha, it's about swapping problems. Laine has been, to put it mildly, a ghost in a Canadiens jersey. With only 1 point in 5 games, battling injuries, and looking completely disengaged when he does play, Laine has become a symbol of frustration. But the real issue is his contract, a massive, suffocating $8.7 million cap hit. Here is the cap hit analysis that makes this trade scenario genius yet terrifying. If Montreal can convince Pittsburgh, a team that is aging and desperate for one last run, to take on Laine as a reclamation project, the financial liberation for Montreal would be instantaneous. Imagine swapping an $8.7 million underperformer for a $2.5 million producer who brings the exact physical element you are missing. It sounds like general manager wizardry, doesn't it? But we have to consider the risk. What if Laine goes to Pittsburgh, gets healthy, and starts scoring 40 goals again next to Crosby or Malkin? That is the fear that keeps GMs awake at night. However, the voice of the fans seems to be shifting. A few months ago, trading Laine would have been blasphemy. Today, the patience is wearing thin. We are seeing a divide in the comments, in the forums, and on talk radio. One side believes Laine just needs time and that his ceiling is Hall of Fame level. The other side looks at Mantha's 6 feet 5 inches frame and his current production and says, "Give me the sure thing, give me the guy who shows up." This trade isn't just about talent, it's about roster chemistry. If you put Mantha on the top line, suddenly Suzuki has room to breathe. Suddenly, defenders have to think twice about pinching. It changes the geometry of the offensive zone. But if you trade Laine, you are admitting defeat on a gamble that was supposed to be the steal of the century. As we look toward the future and try to project the outcome of this potential shakeup, we have to ask ourselves what the Montreal Canadiens want to be when they grow up. The rebuild is entering a critical phase where potential needs to start turning into performance. Acquiring Anthony Mantha represents a shift from collecting assets to building a legitimate competitive roster. If this trade happens, the immediate impact on the locker room would be palpable. You are bringing in a veteran who knows the pressure of the market, a guy who is currently playing for his next contract, and someone who physically protects your greatest investments. Let's play out the scenario where this deal goes through. Picture the first Saturday night game at the Bell Center. Mantha steps onto the ice wearing the St. Flannel. The crowd goes absolutely nuclear. He parks himself in front of the net, something we haven't had consistently since the days of a prime Brendan Gallagher or even going back to John LeClair, and he bangs in a garbage goal. The roof blows off the place. In that moment, the $8.7 million in dead cap space we shipped out with Laine feels like a distant memory. This move creates financial flexibility that allows Kent Hughes to be aggressive in free agency next summer. It opens a window. Conversely, consider the scenario where we do nothing. We keep waiting for Laine to wake up. We keep watching Caulfield get cross-checked with impunity. We miss the playoffs again, and the narrative of perpetual rebuilding starts to rot the culture of winning that Martin St. Louis is trying to instill. There is a cost to inaction. Sometimes the safest move is actually the most dangerous one because it leads to stagnation. The addition of Mantha isn't just about this season. It's about setting a standard. It sends a message to the rest of the league that the Canadiens are done being the small, fast team that is fun to watch but easy to beat physically. Ultimately, this trade rumor is a litmus test for the management's philosophy. Are they willing to cut bait on a high-risk, high-reward asset like Laine to secure a stable, physically dominant, homegrown talent like Mantha? It is a low-risk move in terms of assets, but a high-risk move in terms of optics. If Laine explodes in Pittsburgh, Hughes looks foolish. But if Mantha helps lead this team to a wild card spot, Hughes looks like a genius. I want to hear from you, the real GMs of this franchise. Look at the roster, look at the cap space, and tell me, do you make this call? Do you trade the pure, raw potential of PATRIK Laine to bring the big Quebec boy, Anthony Mantha, home to enforce the law on the top line? Or is that short-sighted? Smash that like button if you think the Habs need more size, and drop your trade proposals in the comments below. I read every single one of them because you guys often have better ideas than the guys in the front office. Let's debate this.